Tennessee lawmakers are proposing a bill to prevent unmarried men from claiming a child that isn't biologically their own. Last week, House Bill 2698 passed the Children and Family Affairs Subcommittee, but not without a challenge from the Tennessee Department of Human Services. Tennessee Representative Antonio Parkinson is sponsoring the House version of the bill. He says the bill will help those men forced to pay child support after finding out the child was not biologically theirs. He joins us right now. He's also chair of the Tennessee Black Caucus. Glad to have you back on the show. So this is kind of basic. How in the hell can you be paying for a child? It ain't yours.
Yeah, we think it's basic. Let me throw this out there first. 1/3 of the signatures on birth certificates today are not the biological father. Think about that. That's a huge number. 33%. 33% of the people that have signed a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity are not the actual father. Now, here's the rub. That means that there are 33% of real biological fathers whose children have been stolen from them through this voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program. I lean on the side that I think most fathers want to be in their children's lives. So that 33% has been robbed legally, state-sponsored, of the opportunity to be a parent to their children. Think about that.
So how does that work? That is, like, who decides to write in the father portion?
So anybody can sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity as long as the mother is okay with it. The only thing that they have to do is sign it in front of a notary, but there are no guardrails that would ensure that this person is actually the biological father.
So is your position that whoever is actually the biological father, they should be notified that they're the father? But where does but what happens though if you are someone and you've been told it's yours, and here you are forced to pay child support, then you find out it's not yours?
Yeah, and that's exactly how I got on this situation. I had a young man stop me in the barbershop, and he said, I thought I had a child with a lady that I was in a long-term relationship with. We went to juvenile court. When her mother told me that she'd been with her ex-boyfriend the whole time, I got a DNA test, went to juvenile court. The juvenile court magistrate banged the gavel down, said somebody's got to feed him, and it's going to be you. And he was stuck with that child support. Not just that, but he walked out of that court in arrears because they went back to the birth of the child. And when he did not
hold on. They're in court. They established he is not the biological father, and the judge still said you got to pay?
The judge still said you got to pay. And the way this thing works is this. When you voluntarily sign, you got 60 days to take your name back off of there. And I had a person to come to me and say, well, he could always ask the lady for a DNA test. I said, well, okay, let's talk about that. You're in the hospital. You know, probably the grandparents are around, the other siblings. You're in there with the lady and she's holding her new bundle of joy, and you're in a relationship with this person. And so you're going to turn around and say, hey, oh yeah, by the way, I want to get a DNA test. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Your relationship is over with at that point. If the DNA results come back, say you are the father, your relationship is over with. If the DNA test comes back, say you're not the father, your relationship is over with. And so that's not reality, right? And I had a young man, I've gotten more calls about this than any other bill I've passed, right? I had a young man call me today. He said, I was 19 years old and I was in the hospital, all her family's around, and there was no way that I could ask for a DNA test. No way. Right. And so what we're doing is making it required only to validate your name on that birth certificate. So what we're saying is this: you can still voluntarily sign, but you have to produce DNA results that say you are the actual father so that your name can be validated on that birth certificate.
So who is paying for that? So is that going to be the state? Is that going to be the individual? So how's this thing going to work out? That when a child is born, are they going to take the DNA at that moment? I mean, what's going to actually happen?
So this is how it works. So, and I got to give you a little background for you to understand this. Per Health and Human Services in D.C., they say the states have to have 3 ways of acknowledging paternity. 3 ways. One is voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program. And that's for people that want to sign. And this is who we're targeting, right? Then you have DNA tests for contested births, ones that didn't want to sign, right? Then you have the fact that people are married. So it's automatically presumed by law that the father in a marriage is the father of the child. But we're focusing on voluntary acknowledgement, the ones that want to voluntarily sign. They feel like, or have been told, maybe by the mother, or had been led to believe that they are the father of this child, right? And so they want to sign. And we don't have a problem with that. You can want to sign and sign. But it will not, the process will not be complete until you produce the results of the DNA saying that you are the actual father. Because if that DNA test comes back and says you're not the father, then it's paternity fraud for you to sign on there. And if that DNA test comes back and says you are the father, then it will be validated. But think about this though, and this is the angle I'm coming from on this. Not to fault women or anybody else, but I believe that if you are a father by DNA, you deserve the right. You have the right to be a parent to your child legally. This under the law right now, they are taking that right away from the actual biological parent by not having safeguards in place to make sure it's the biological parent that gets that right. Because once you sign, you are the legal parent of that child.
Questions from my panel. Jeff?
Want to make sure I hit
there
that.
You go. There you go.
I'm here. Thanks, Representative Parkinson, down the street from you in Nashville. Man, it's good to see you here. Know a lot of people who talk about the work that you're doing. Congratulations. Listen, there are tons of stories that you're saying.
Oh
as a pastor, I have tons of people. I had a gentleman come years ago. He spent 19 years paying child support, and got into an argument with who was his wife at the time, and that was when she revealed that it wasn't his and there was nothing he could do. There are tons of stories like this. Let me ask you about the state and the federal complex here around this, because when people say, well, it's about just getting a DNA test or not, there's an entire court system involved. Tell me about this. There's a 40% match that the state or the federal government gets from circumstances like this. Can you talk about that so that people can know that this is bigger than just a few people taking a DNA test?
Thank you for the alley-oop that felt like an alley-oop anyway. But I need Roland to understand. Roland, thank you for this platform, because you are breaking a major story nationally with this.
Yes.
Think about it. People ask me, well, why is the Department of Human Services fighting you so hard on this bill? They are throwing the kitchen sink at me to stop this bill from passing. Well, here's the reason. They get paid for people to blindly sign on a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. Three things that's happening. They're chasing a 90% quota of acknowledged births in the state. They get millions of dollars for reaching that 90% quota, and then get a bonus of more millions for surpassing that 90% quota. What would happen if a person sees the DNA test and says, hey, whoa, not mine? They're not going to sign. So that quota may be in jeopardy. Second piece, they also get $52 million here in the state of Tennessee to have a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program in place. This money goes to child support enforcement programs. Then thirdly, for every single child support order, they receive a 40% match from the federal government. So it's state-sponsored. Think about what I'm saying. This is state-sponsored child theft, paternity fraud, however you want to call it, but they are literally taking children from some biological fathers.
Let's go. Crystal, your question.
I want to say good to see you, Representative Parkinson. Also,
hey, friend.
Touche. That's what we call him down in Memphis. But I want to ask a question just from the female perspective. I think a lot of what you're talking about, men experience these hardships because they, agree to something that they obviously were misled or tricked or whatever the case may be. But is there any kind of legislative tools you can use so that women will be discouraged from doing this in the future? Meaning that if I'm asking a man to sign my child's birth certificate knowingly, with the knowledge that he is not the father, and then, it comes out later, 19 years, as Carr just stated, or in the case that you brought up, years or months later, what are the repercussions for women? Like, what are the repercussions for the woman who acted egregiously in this manner? So I'm just curious, like, what can be
Yeah.
done? And then are there any legislative tools that can be put in place in our state legislature to ensure that this doesn't happen again, that women will stop doing this and men will be better informed, obviously, but also and I'm not saying every woman has done this and does this intentionally, but there are some bad actors out there. And so I'm just curious what can be done.
Interesting. The majority of the support in regards to this legislation is coming from women. So I would say 99.9% of the people who have contacted me about this legislation, most of them were women, and 99.9% of them were tremendously in favor of this legislation. Let me answer your last question first. If we enact this bill, it kills any paternity fraud because we will know on the front end. And I want you to think about something. An individual that's going through this has gone through multiple traumas, including their child. Like in the case of the guy that brought this to me first, the child was 5 years and 1 month old. And so when he brought it to juvenile court, he was 1 month past the 5-year statute of limitation to rescind his voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. And so think about what happened. You got the trauma of the grandmother telling you that your girlfriend wasn't faithful. Then you got the trauma of the DNA test that comes back that you're not this kid's father and you've been raising this kid for 5 years, right? Saw this kid being birthed. Then you have the trauma of the magistrate saying, nope, you're stuck and you're going to be paying for child support until this child ages out. Then the trauma of he lost his license because they were enforcing. He couldn't get caught up. He was riding dirty, got pulled over, got sent to jail. When he went to jail, he was in jail for about 3 or 4 days, lost his job. And he had another child that was his biological child that he was supporting. This man's life was turned completely upside down when it could have simply been fixed on the front end.
Yep.
But now, the state of Tennessee Department of Human Services wants it to continue. And that's crazy because lives are being affected by this situation when it's a simple fix. Just find out and make sure that this is the actual father and take it out of the father's hand. Make it mandatory. And so he doesn't have to ask for it. I think it would actually encourage more people to voluntarily acknowledge and sign because they know a DNA test is coming with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Omakongo, your question.
Yeah, I've been kind of bug-eyed throughout this whole segment because I was just completely unaware. So this is really a breaking story. The question that I have is, first of all, thank you for your efforts on this. I'm wondering, are you hearing anything from the actual biological fathers, the ones who didn't get an opportunity to sign the certificate? Is there pushback from them, or are they in support of this? What kind of feedback are you getting? I'm sure many of them may not even know, but for the ones who do, are you hearing from them?
Most of the people that I know, most of the men that I know that have any involvement in this situation want to be a father to the children. I just feel so bad for that person that did not get the opportunity either because the woman did not tell them that they were possibly a father. But let me tell you about this phone call that I got on my way from Memphis to Nashville today. This lady, she's older than I am, and she called me and she said, thank you for running this legislation. And she went on to explain this to me. I just met my father because they kept it from me and told me that my stepfather was my father all of my life. I met my father. The reason I met my father was because he is right now going through treatment for, I forgot what kind of cancer it was that he has. She said, if I would not have met him, I would not have known that I am high risk for this cancer. And now I'm being screened. Think about that.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
Unbelievable. and state sponsored. They are encouraging people to blindly sign because they are motivated by money.
Mm-hmm.
Millions and millions and millions of dollars that are churning from Health and Human Services in DC, right? And they are what the state of Tennessee is doing is loosely interpreting the regulations from Health and Human Services to say that if we add a DNA test, we will be out of compliance and lose this money. But it has been told to me by an HHS attorney that the federal government only lays out the minimum requirements for your voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program. Everything else is left up to the states. The feds never said what a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity program looks like. They just said it needs to include this, and that's it. And so the states have the ability to make their program what they want it to be. But again, we can reach this 90% quota if we just get all people signing regardless of whether or not they're the father or not. Unbelievable.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Folks, I appreciate it. Representative Parkinson, thank you so very much. Keep us abreast of how this bill goes through committee and through the legislature.
Thank you. Thank you for the platform, Roland. Appreciate you, brother.
Not a problem. Thanks a lot, folks.
Back to that Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?